Hi everyone, Megan here from Beguiled by Books, and today is the day where I get to share with you my favorite books from all of 2023. I read nearly 120 books this year, and I'm so excited to share about 15 to 20 of my absolute favorites from the year. Let's get started. So this year, there were a lot of really fantastic books, but these were the absolute cream of the crop for me. So first up, we have The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This was the first of what's now going to be a series of books, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be a standalone novel. It does hold up, in my opinion, as a standalone novel, but I definitely want there to be more. It was full of adventure. I loved the heroine is a little bit of an older woman. She's not a 17 or a 20-year-old. So she's a mother, she's a retired pirate. It was just such a fun story. And in the vein of Shannon Chakraborty's novels, there is a lot of Middle Eastern lore and legend and myth in there. So it was a fun, fantastic read, and I absolutely devoured it. Another favorite book from 2023 was Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. And Leigh Bardugo is just a very prolific writer. She did the Grishaverse, Shadow and Bone series, and Hellbent is the second in the Alex Stern series, and it was marvelous. The series follows Alex Stern, who is a non-traditional student at Yale and gets involved in these secret societies because she has a paranormal power, and it's just absolutely full of pagan lore, demonic activity, really fun stuff, and thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm absolutely desperate for the third book in that series to come out. The next book that I read that I really, really loved in 2023 was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. And this was a standalone novel. It's about the publishing industry. And when a literary darling when she dies unexpectedly, her author friend ends up with an unpublished manuscript, makes some changes, and brings a lot of ethics and morality and plagiarism and appropriation and racism questions into the mix. So really, really interesting look at publishing, at ethics, at individuals' choices and what that means for them, and how we ended up rationalizing all of that. So really standout novel of the year. Absolutely loved it. Another really fun book that was very unexpected for me in 2023 was My Sister, the Serial Killer. And I did a Storygraph Reads the World challenge this year, and this one was from Nigeria, and I was blown away. It is a short book, and it just jumps right in with action, and you are compelled throughout the entire book. Certainly not a spoiler given the title of the book, My Sister, the Serial Killer. So the premise is the sister and her view of what her sister does with these men in her life that end up dying unexpectedly. So really compelling, fun book. I think it would make a fabulous movie if that were ever to happen. I would 100% watch it. Really enjoyable. And again, I don't tend to read a lot of that type of genre, so this one was very fun for me. Another standout book in the fiction space in 2023 was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. This is the second of the Emily Wilde books. I loved Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I was lucky enough to receive both of these as advanced reader copies, and Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands continues the story and is just, again, a really fun look. Emily Wilde being a slightly curmudgeon-y young person in the academia space in the early 20th century. It's just such a fun, wholesome, heartwarming story. And again, you have lots of fairies and kind of traditionally mythological beings that are woven into the story, and it was just a great little book, and I really enjoyed it, and the covers are absolutely beautiful. Another fabulous book that I read in 2023 was Everything's Fine, and this book I, again, received as an advanced reader copy, and I was immediately drawn in because the main character works in the world of finance in New York City, And that's something that I can relate to in a kind of roundabout way. But the main character being a Black woman in a traditionally conservative white male space, being, you know, high finance, was a really powerful look at what that perspective looks like for this character. And again, it was really compelling. And when she falls in love with a white finance bro dude, all kinds of questions come up about what is love, what sacrifices are you supposed to make for love, when belief systems are quite literally at odds with one another. How do you make that work? Should you make it work? So there were a lot of fabulous questions that came up, and I thought this was a very underrated and powerful novel. Another book I read in the fiction space in 2023 was The Running Grave. And The Running Grave is the 7th of the Cormoran Strike series. So I definitely recommend starting with book 1 if you haven't gotten into it. But this is the best of this series so far. And it's all about a private investigator who goes undercover in a cult, and what she experiences trying to extract her client's son from this cult and taking down the cult if she can. I don't know, you know, it's so well done. It's very compelling. It's 900-page plus book. So but it's a quick read. There is nonstop action. It's just like boom, 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 boom. Everything's constantly happening, multiple perspectives, great passage of time, really well done. It's like I said, it's the best of the series so far. So if you haven't started the series, I would start with book 1 because it just keeps getting better. And the last fiction book that I loved in 2023 was The Women by Kristen Hanna. And this was so beautifully done and tells a really interesting story about the nurses of the Vietnam War, who are often unsung heroes of that conflict and time period. So really powerful look at those women and their contributions to such a traumatic event in our history, and then what they experienced upon their return home, and the look at PTSD and the look at kind of being gaslit into thinking that you weren't really a part of something when you were. So Kristen Hanna has done another excellent job in this book, and I hope everyone gets to read it because it's fabulous. Now, in the nonfiction space, I have another handful that I really enjoyed in 2023. And the first one that I loved was Enchantment by Catherine May. I regularly recommend Catherine May's books, both Wintering and now Enchantment. And Enchantment is all about, the subtitle is Awakening Wonder, I think, in an Anxious Age. And it really is awakening our forgotten ability to just marvel at what's around us and kind of be grateful to be in the present, and how with being constantly bombarded with stuff and things all the time, from social media to television to even books and entertainment, so many different things, how can we slow down and be appreciative and grateful for what's right in front of us, like the trees or the sound of the wind or our family in our immediate home, things like that. So really great book if you are looking for something to help you better understand how to slow down and appreciate the moment. The next nonfiction book that I read in 2023 that I adored was Outlive by Peter Attia. This one is a little more technical. There's a bit more medical jargon than I had expected, but Peter Attia is a doctor, so not surprising. But this book really helps look at the medical system and how you are in charge of your own body and health and wellness, and no one's going to do it for you. So what can you do to age gracefully and really build in longevity so that you can be a fully functioning, self-caring adult when you are in your 80s and in your 90s and potentially even longer, so you're not relying on others necessarily to take care of you, because you can do so much today to help prevent you needing to be really cared for, put in a home, that type of thing. So it's a really fantastic read if you are interested in taking control of your health and your wellness and your body so that you can grow old and stay physically fit as you grow older. Another great nonfiction book that I read in 2023 is Disentangling from Emotionally Immature People by Dr. Lindsay Gibson. And this is part of her overall Emotionally Immature Parents and People series. And this book really takes a look at what those emotionally immature people are in your life. Maybe they're coworkers, maybe they're friends, maybe they're family members, maybe they're just people you interact with that really don't fit into any of those categories, yet still drain you of energy, and how you can help put those boundaries in place so that you can put those boundaries in place and really distance yourself from the things that drain you of energy and don't contribute meaningfully to your life. It's a really interesting look at emotional, both maturity and immaturity, and how that all plays a part in our personal mental well-being and the importance that has on us as individuals. Another nonfiction book that I read in 2023 that was fabulous was Scarcity Brain by Michael Easter. I've said this in many of my other videos, but Scarcity Brain takes a look at the scarcity loop and looks at why we keep and maintain bad habits, even bad habits we know are harmful to us. So many books focus on good habits and how to instill good habits in our lives. And this is the other side of that same coin in terms of how we can break those bad habits, and how that abundance mindset is what we really need to overcome these little things and big things that are driving that primitive scarcity loop in our mind, keeping us where we are rather than where we want to be. So Scarcity Brain was one of my favorite nonfictions of 2023, and I really hope that you get to read it. The Creative Act by Rick Rubin was another fabulous book that I read this year. And this book is really a beautiful look at what creativity means and why it's not necessarily about the end result, but the act itself of being creative. Even if you're doodling stick figures or you're just playing notes on an instrument and they don't have any necessarily pattern or chord or rhyme or reason, but just putting the creative act out there is just as important, if not more important, than the end result. So being creative is so much more than the thing you're trying to produce. It's much more important, Rick Rubin argues, to do the thing rather than to worry about what that thing may become in the long run. So the Creative Act is something I would recommend for anyone who is in a creative space, whether it's writing or music or some type of visual art or even coding and things like that, just ways that you have to invent something from nothing. Everyone should read The Creative Act. The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell was an ARC I received in 2023. It comes out in 2024, but it was one that I really enjoyed this year because it really takes a look at how all of the stimulus that we get in the form of information overload on a day-to-day basis is contributing to a societal level of overthinking that we really haven't seen before, and people trying to make meaning out of coincidence or make meaning out of nothing and assign conspiracies to certain events just to help figure out how we can cope with all of the things that we're aware of. And it goes and talks about different types of biases that we all have and how we can be on the lookout for them so that we can slow down and say, is this actually happening, or is my brain trying to make a reason out of something, even though it may be completely random? So this is Amanda Montell's third book that she's written. I love all of them. This one is definitely her best one to date, and I hope you get a chance to read it. The last nonfiction book that I would recommend from my reading in 2023 is The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. And I read this in preparation for a holiday party that we hosted. And I really, really loved Priya Parker's different take on making any type of gathering meaningful, whether it's just a quick 30-minute work meeting, or whether it's a holiday party you're hosting, or a conference for several thousand people. She talks about all of these different ways of gathering and how they're different and how they're similar and how each of them has a cadence and a flow, and the best way to exceed your guests' expectations, regardless of what type of event you're hosting. So if you are someone who sets up meetings at work or sets up larger events, definitely a book worth reading. And finally, it would not be a year if we didn't talk about some of the best series of books that were read in 2023. So some of my favorite series this year were the Lockwood & Co. series. And I first came across Lockwood & Co. Because it became a show on Netflix. So it was, I think, an 8-episode show. Unfortunately, it's since been canceled. I really enjoyed it. But Lockwood & Co. is based on some middle grade novels about like a paranormal alternate London. And they were really easy. I blew through them, but they were really fun and a little bit spooky and just very enjoyable. The pace was very excellent. And for anyone looking for a nice, light, easy read, or if you've got some middle grade readers in your life, the Lockwood & Co. books are super fun. 2 series I read this year that definitely are worth mentioning are the 2 Sarah J. Maas series that I hadn't read yet, which are the Throne of Glass series and the ACOTAR series. So Throne of Glass was the first series that Sarah J. Maas started. There is a lot of overlap with the ACOTAR series in terms of publishing time. But Throne of Glass is an 8-book series, and it is a longer one. The books are not short by any stretch, but it is really interesting when you read them in conjunction with the other series, both ACOTAR and Crescent City. You've heard me say this before, Crescent City 3, House of Flame and Shadow is coming in January 2024. And I think a lot of elements from Throne of Glass and ACOTAR are going to start showing up in Crescent City 3. That's the prevailing fan theory. I could be very wrong, so we'll have to wait and see. But I thought both of those series were well done. I look forward to at least revisiting the ACOTAR characters. Throne of Glass may be finished completely, unclear, but both of those series were very enjoyable. So if you're looking for a 16-book series to get into in 2024, Sarah J. Maas is what you should definitely check out. Last but not least, and thank you for sticking with me so far, is the Fourth Wing series. It's called the Empyrean series, and we've got books 1 and 2 that are out. So Fourth Wing and Iron Flame have been published. They are very entertaining, very enjoyable, quick-paced, action-packed books that I would absolutely recommend to any fan of fantasy. There's War College, we've got dragons, we've got drama, we've got all different types of elements that are happening at the same time. And it is just packed full of everything you could want. Very entertaining, very enjoyable. And I think the third one may come out at the end of 2024. Still waiting on that official announcement to my knowledge. Those are the books that I loved and read in 2023. You can take a look at my best books of 2023 post over on my website. I'll link to it in the description below. Please let me know what you read this year that you absolutely loved. I'm always open to having new books on my TBR, so please drop a comment below and let me know. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks and have a wonderful day.